NFL, shall we? The pile-on for Roger Goodell, it's no joke. After handing off the Super Bowl trophy to Robert Kraft on Sunday, Goodell quickly left the stage. Now we had Browns left tackle Joe Thomas adding fuel to the fire, reaming the commish after that presentation.
I especially enjoyed how over-eager Roger was to smile at all the Patriots and give them the big handshake, but then as soon as he gave him the trophy, he scurried off that stage like a rat. It was awesome.
The rat. This summer, Thomas wasn't shy about his feelings on Deflategate, saying he would equate what Tom Brady did to driving 66 miles per hour in a 65-mile-per-hour speed zone in getting the death penalty. Herm Edwards is here with us. No days off for you, kind sir. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate you. I'm going to start with Max here, though. Max, what's the real reason you think players are speaking out against Goodell?
Players are speaking out against Goodell because they correctly identify him as a defender of the brand of the NFL. He never rides for the players, almost never. Almost always sides with the owners. Yes, they are his employers, but in a sense, so are the players in the sense that they help generate revenue. They really are all in it together, and it's a matter of how they divvy up the pie. But he is such a defender of the brand that the players, who literally, they're well compensated, obviously, but literally put their lives on the line. It's a blood sport, blood, sweat, and tears. See an owner who is ride or die, see a commissioner who is ride or die for the owners, and every time. And so whether or not that's actually his job description, they recognize that. They see, oh, okay, you are a puppet or an instrument of ownership, and you are here to control, and oftentimes it feels like to them, crush labor. Got it. You're against us, we're against you. I think that's the mentality of a lot of players in the league.
The players speak out against Goodell because they're children and they need to grow up. Let's call it what it is. The fact of the matter is that the NFL, like any brand, puts its brand first. You are bigger than the individual. The brand, a.k.a. the shield, was here before you arrived. It'll be here when you're gone. And the thing about it is that I will openly confess, Max, opinions like that, and I'm not knocking you for it, I'm just pointing to the fact that we work for ESPN. We don't come before the brand. ESPN will put the brand before us any day of the week and twice on Sundays. And guess what? I'm not knocking them for it because they're supposed to, because the business is more important than one individual component. We work for the brand. The brand comes before us. And if we have to be sacrificial lambs for the expense of the brand, that's what big boy rules entail. Guys need to grow up and get over it. There is a collective bargaining negotiation that takes place. Everybody and their grandmama knows that Roger Goodell works for the owners, the players, even though they have a lot to do with the $18 billion plus the NFL earns annually. The fact of the matter is it goes into the owners' pockets, and the owners pay the players, and they also pay the commissioner. And just like they have to go out on the field every Sunday and capitulate to rules and regulations governing the game, Roger Goodell has to capitulate to the wishes and desires of 32 owners. These are not children. They're grown men with families and mortgages and bills who should be beyond the point of having to fully understand what comes with it. And I don't think they accept it enough, and that's their problem.
I say this for a person that has worked under the brand. I've seen this brand develop and become maybe the biggest sports business entity in sports right now. When you think about the brand and the protection of the brand, as Stephen A. and Max, you mentioned it, is very, very important. I will say this, players and coaches chose the profession of being professional football players and professional coaches. And so you understand when you come underneath that brand, that the brand is bigger than any individual, and it always will be. It's bigger than the commissioner as well. One day there'll be a new commissioner. The brand will still continue to flourish. As you know, that there has always been somewhat of a disagreement between players and what we call the commissioner's offices is really the mouthpiece of the owners, per se, but he is kind of the middle guy. And he sits there, and that's why they pay him $40 million to sit there and take that criticism. And players know that I would rather say things against a commissioner rather than my owner, because he works for the owners. And that's another way to have a communication. I do think there's a lack of trust there with players and ownership, not the commissioner, and ownership. But the problem is the commissioner is the voice for the league, but also the voice for the owners.
Max,
Stephen A.,
Coach,
I think your point is well taken about don't act like children. You negotiated this CBA, et cetera. I just want to make 2 quick points about that. One, yes, there was a CBA. It was negotiated. The NFL has a de facto monopoly. It's not a normal negotiation. That's one. And 2, yes, we also work for a very powerful brand. We are not putting our lives on the line, and that changes the way you feel about things if you feel you are being sacrificed on the altar of the brand. And finally, I lied, there are 3. Depends who's running the show. If there's a popular president of a network, then people like him. You don't hear people speaking out against him or her. If he's unpopular, meaning there's a sense by labor he's not doing a good job or not being fair, people will speak out. I think that's the case here.
Well, I think the important point, Coach, and I wanted to piggyback off of what you said because I think it's incredibly important to point this out. What Max says, I get where you're coming from, but Coach, like Coach said, Max, they chose this. Nobody forced them to participate in NFL competition. They chose this and they knew what they were getting into. But Max, the biggest point that I don't think you've ever brought up, but I'll bring it up, is this. What Coach just said. The commissioner answers to the owners. Why don't you call out your owner? You know why you don't? Because you know better. You know where your bread is being buttered. So Roger Goodell is an easy out. I would actually have more respect for their veracity, for their temperament, for their disgust if they aimed it in the direction of the people who preside over Roger Goodell. But they're smart enough not to do that. So we have to
but the
understand
owners don't act
Stephen A., so to be clear, are we saying Roger
Goodell's unanimity there?
Hold on, Max, 1 second. Are we saying Roger Goodell's the scapegoat then for the
Yes.
owners in terms of
Yes,
in terms
that's
of the
what I'm
players'
saying.
resentment towards
That's
their
what I'm
owners? That's
saying.
really where it stems.
That's what I'm saying.
Would you agree with
yes.
that, Herm?
I would say this, a little bit of that, but I think the problem with the commissioner's office, and I think Stephen A. and Max, you will agree with this, there has been no consistency. We're almost a reactionary league. When things go bad, we react rather than having policies already in place. Now, that falls on the commissioner, okay? You know, when you think about domestic violence, we reacted to that. We react to a lot of things that should be put away already and have a standard because players want this. They understand. There's always rules. There's rules of the game. But the players don't see the line always seems to move. It's almost, what does public opinion say? We'll react this way.
Yeah, that's a good point, Coach. But where I would challenge you is that you're mentioning the commissioner.
Yes.
I would also respectfully mention DeMaurice Smith, who's the executive director of the Players Association. Because 2 things that I religiously bring up about him is that, A, if you're the commissioner and you've collectively bargained something, obviously you believe you have the wiggle room to exercise things arbitrarily to the degree that he does. But number 2, and more importantly, you're not inclined to be but so receptive to the players because their representative is someone everyone has acknowledged you have a cantankerous relationship with because everything is turned into a legal issue, which means that we can't talk about Roger Goodell without talking about DeMaurice Smith, too.
Yeah. And the owners, by the way, Stephen A., the owners don't act as one all the time. They represent 1/32 of interest. So a player may agree with his owner's position, but the commissioner's looking out for the brand as a monolith, as one giant thing. And that's what the players feel crushed by.
The brand always wins. Just remember that, man. The brand is always going to win.
And it also stands for not for long, Herm Edwards. Thank you so much for the player, coach, and, of course, the analyst perspective, the insight. Appreciated you.